All right. So, how did you hear about Guts for Nickelodeon?
Uh, well, it wasn't called Guts. It wasn't called anything. I got a call from a producer asking me about different types of stunts, and I went into the studio at Nickelodeon and to Scott Fishman. Yeah, he had called me, and so I went in and talked to him and everything, and they had an idea for a show and so forth, and they didn't know what they were doing. I didn't know what they wanted, so I started inventing different things with my students at my stunt school. And when I got some things done, I had called them and asked them to come out to the school to see some things. So I put some stuff on the bungee and stuff. They came out and they liked what they saw, basically. So I'm the one that really designed everything. I didn't design the name. It wasn't called Guts before. I can't remember the name.
Oh, it
That
would.
we
Oh, okay, it would have been nice to hear the name. So, how long did the kids for the contestant to get the actual stunt choreography right? How long did it take them?
um, we had a system with the kids, and we could teach them within a matter of 5 to 10 minutes
Mm.
because we put them on harnesses and we coordinated them and controlled them so they wouldn't get hurt.
And what was your first impression of Nickelodeon Studios when you got there, the actual building?
Well, I didn't know. I came here from California. I was directing films and everything, and basically I wanted to retire, so I left California and went to Athens, Greece, to buy an island. And I have asthma in California. And when I got to Greece, I had asthma again. So I traveled around Greece and Spain and everything else, and came back to Florida. And I had a friend of mine that was a stunt man, and they were just building Universal Studios. And he said, why don't you stick around Florida? And maybe Florida will hire you for some directing or anything. So as I was building and I went to Universal, I saw this one studio called Nickelodeon, which I didn't know what it was. I've never heard of the Nickelodeon. I didn't know it was kids. I didn't know what it was. And when I went and visited and everything, there was a nice sound stage and everything else, but I didn't know what they were doing. I thought it was cartoons or comedies or something like that. And then when I found out what it was and everything, and they did call me in, and I gave them all the pitch for, making this, well, what's called Guts now. They didn't have the money for it. And when I gave them a price for it and everything, they told me they couldn't afford me. So I said, fine, you can find somebody else. And I went on my way until they called me back.
Interesting. So, you had never heard of Nickelodeon before, but they actually knew about you. So, I guess that
They
was.
knew about, yeah, they knew about me. They knew about, I know how to rig and how to direct and stuff like that. They hired me basically as a TA, technical advisor, stunt coordinator, and director for Nickelodeon.
Was an exciting time to be there, to go to Orlando in the first place, because I don't know if you remember the whole Hollywood East craze that was going on, but like all the constant TV and film stuff going on out there was an exciting time for you.
No, I didn't like Florida. I didn't like Florida because it was flat.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't. I didn't like the heat here. I didn't like. I didn't like Florida. Uh, I liked South Beach and stuff, but that's more of playing games and stuff down there.
Mm.
But then when I found out that there's some nice properties here, and the properties were cheaper in California, I bought this where I am now, 100 acres, and built my school on it, and built a house on it, and everything else. And now I like Florida. It's great, and I have no asthma here. I guess the humidity keeps it down.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really nice. I like that that you said that. And then speaking of the studio, there was two sound stages there, and they were really nice and impressive. But Did you have a lot to do there versus your school and your home there that you built there versus the studio? Like, what was more good
Well,
for you?
when I got hired for the studio, I had to go and check all the beams. I had to do everything. I mean, I had to rig all these things so that you got like 6 to 12 kids swinging on ropes and stuff, and I got to make sure everything's safe. So I had to go up on the grits and the roof and check everything out. I found a lot of mistakes. I found a lot of things wrong. I had to redo them to make sure everything was safe.
So did that ever come like a halt in production at times for you, or did it ever like the producer just kept going on, or did they have to make sure that you knew exactly knew the craft of the production?
Well, I had it in my contract with the producers, which they don't like. I had it that if I saw anything that was not safe, I could stop the filming,
Hmm.
which I say, which the producers don't really like that because they want to get things, in the can and do things. But my deal was to have safety for the kids because we had kids from, I think, 12 years old up to, I don't know, 16, I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah, I think I could agree with that. But I have to say, it came out when we watched it on TV. It looked so well done and neat and stuff. But like you said, it's always nice to know about the background of it. Were there any memorable contestants from Guts that stood out to you? Like any particular
Oh
favorite ones?
yeah, there was one girl, and I can't remember her name. Um, she was racing for the mountain Agaro, and she missed hitting one of the signals and everything, and had to go all the way back down. And she flew down on the ropes and everything, and went all the way back up and won the contest. It was amazing. I can find her name someplace in my records, but I don't know it right off.
Wow, yeah, I like that hearing that story. It's really inspirational. The show. Did you ever get to climb the aggro crag yourself though?
Oh yeah, well, I made that. I formulated so that the cables and all that stuff would work.
Wow, I really love that too. And but I've also been curious about the statue, the grand prize of it. Do you know exactly what it was made out of? Because it looked crystallic and stuff, like
It
kind of
looked
waxy.
plastic, part plastic.
Okay. How great was all the staff who worked at Nick? Because I always hear stories about everyone was so friendly and positive. Like, but from your experience, how great was everyone there?
Well, it was great. Like when I went in for the for them to call me in and everything, um, Artie, the top executive, really didn't like me that much. Fishman liked me, and so did the other producers. But we had an attitude with each other, but we became very, very close friends as things went on.
I see. I think it could have been like maybe because you were exactly like a perfectionist, you were in charge of it, and maybe they got pissed off at times at you. Maybe that could have
But
been it.
yeah. That's another director, another producer doesn't like to be told off by somebody else.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm the type of guy that if I have something on my mind, I say it as it is. I don't mean to take your job or embarrass you or anything else. I just say things the way they are because I'm not a school person. I only went to the third grade, so I'm streetwise, and it's being arrogant, I guess people say.
Yeah. It's not. It's good to be streetwise at times because I feel like the whole world is not about book stuff. Knowledge after books and stuff. It's good to have a combination of both. I feel like so.
Right. Today the kids don't have a chance. I look at it that the kids are losing an awful lot of using their mind because the computer and telephone is the biggest thing that they have today.
Right, right. I definitely agree with you. There's so much in our face now, so much technology. It takes away from our using our creativeness and imagination. That's
Right.
exactly.
You can't. Some of these kids don't even know how to tell time without looking on the computer.
Yeah, it's funny. It's sad but true.
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it. It's it's very disturbing for me, although I think the sophistication and the technology is great if you use it correctly.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's really nice. It's really messed up, and I think that worked for Nickelodeon back then. And think you hear so many stories. I don't know if you're aware, but Guts is so much valued of '90s and stuff. It's almost made such a positive impact, and it's still loved by people today. But how does that make you feel when you hear stories like
Oh, it
that?
makes me feel good. I see kids come over. I have pictures on my wall, and people look at that and say, "Oh God, I wish I could have got on there when I was a kid," or something like that. It makes me feel good.
Yeah, it sure does. Like I loved it, and it was a great show. And I think Michael Malley did a great job. If you ever got to talk to him, like if you remember interacting
Oh
with him.
yeah, he was a close friend. We went to Europe together and everything. He was really a close friend. He's a great guy. He was a great guy when we were doing the show, and also the little girl too. She was great.
Yeah, Mora, is that who you're talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the crew was with us. The crew was very friendly with us because we joked around, played around constantly with O'Malley and Moore, I mean, we were part of that whole group. As far as the producers, they were, up in the green room and stuff like that, watching us like that. We were always on the set, my people. As a matter of fact, when I went in and told, Fishman that I want a stuntman for each and every one of the kids for safety line, the producers didn't like the idea because they didn't want to film those. They just wanted to film the kids. But then when we saw our guys dancing and fooling around and everything, they loved every moment of it.
Yeah, like, cause I really think that being there was a friendly, family-friendly atmosphere, and you guys were just play silly every day, and it's not the pressure of the whole Hollywood and New York thing. I think you guys
We
just,
had fun. We had
yeah,
fun with the kids.
yeah.
Sometimes we wouldn't have fun with the parents because I had to put the parents in the green room and not let them out on the stage because some parents would say, "Oh, my kid could do this better, and that kid could do better," and then they would yell at them and stuff. And I didn't like that because we're doing a game. You
hmm
know, kids should have fun.
Yeah, I agree with you. I wouldn't be surprised if parents got pissed off because they're so overprotective. And especially now, they would be very overprotective now with all the constant
Parents
laws.
were yeah sometimes. That's why I made them stay in the green room. I would never let them out on the set.
Yeah, true. But to add on to that, having fun with the kids and a live audience there, was that a good aspect of the show as well? A live studio
Oh
audience?
yeah,
hmm
yeah. It made it more popular. It made it the kids would get all sacked out at people screaming and stuff like that. So it made it very nice for 'em.
mm And three more questions, but you got to be a stunt director for a very brief time on Shelby Woo, the Mystery Files of Shelby Woo. How did that differ for you?
Oh, it was nothing because I've been directing for before I even came to Florida. I
Mm,
directed a lot of films. I directed Patton. I directed McCloster, Thornburg's, many films.
wow. Oh, okay. Yeah, because I just only asked because this time it was a kids show, so I just thought I was going to be
No,
different.
it was a kids show, but the kids show, which I never did before, um, it was kind of different for me. But after getting along with the kids and telling them exactly what I wanted done and everything, the kids seemed to really like what I'm doing.
Mm. And a bonus to working that was the legendary Pat Morita, of course, who sadly is no longer with us, but I think he was a fantastic back then.
Yeah, I worked for him on the Karate Kid. I doubled him in the Karate Kid.
Wow, you learn something new every day. That I love that. That's one of my favorite movies. And two more, like Nick Studios. It was unfortunately closed in 2005. There's so many people who miss it, but would you like to see it be reopened one day? Do you think it should come
Oh
back?
yeah, yeah. I would like to see it open. I'd probably like to try to create something different for it.
Yeah.
I haven't stopped. I just had my 85th birthday just October 16th, and I still teach my students. I'm teaching them repelling and how to turn over a car, fire gags, and everything else. So I'll go for another 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many good stuff. I mean, heck yeah, I would love to see you directing and stuff on that. I mean, I think kids now they would appreciate more, especially like back then with all the technology stuff. I think there's so much more you could do with it. I feel like. And finally, what do you think made it so great and special, Nick Studios in Florida?
I guess because the kids had more opportunity to get involved with things.
Kids, they basically ran it. I mean, for a while it was nicknamed the first world's headquarters for kids, and that was the sole basis of what Nickelodeon. And I think back then Nickelodeon was such a innovative force in children's TV, and that studio just.
Well, when I first did something, I think I did Clarissa.
Hmm.
That's the first thing I did at Nickelodeon. I went in and they needed some kids to fly, and I rigged some stuff up. I think that's how they got me for Guts. I'm not sure. I don't know how they called me, but I think that's what happened. I did Clarissa, and that was before Guts came, you know,
Hmm.
out.
I do remember Clarissa, and that could be a good idea though, because like to go from live action to game like a sports show, I think that could have been a good reason why they hire you again as well for it. But
Well, they had talked to a lot of people. I found out they talked to a lot of people before they ever called me. But when they called me and I told them a price because they were a very cheap outfit at that time because they didn't have any money. And when I told them how much it was going to cost, they couldn't afford me basically. So they tried to get so many other people. But like I said, Fishman he really wanted me there, and I'm glad I went.
yeah, I talked to Fishman before. He's a good dude, and he was very passionate and dedicated. I must say, very good guy. And
Oh yeah, him and another producer wrote some letters for me, which I still have, and it says that if